Will there be a 2020-2021 flu season? This is Dr. Gregory Charlop, and thanks for watching. There's some very exciting news that I want to share. It turns out that as bad as COVID is, there may be one silver lining, which is that we may have a reduced or even eliminated flu season this year. Here's the deal. As you know, the Earth is divided into the Northern and the Southern Hemisphere. So in the United States, we're in the Northern Hemisphere, and we're heading into winter. In the Southern Hemisphere, like in Australia or New Zealand, they're heading out of winter into summer. So while we are heading into our flu season, those countries are heading out of their flu season. So we can get a glimpse of what might happen to us based on what's happened in these other countries that are in the Southern Hemisphere. And the news is good. If you look at Australia, they had the mildest flu season on record. In fact, they had less than 1/10 of the normally expected flu cases this year. And most of their flu cases occurred before the COVID pandemic started. In other words, since the pandemic started, they had almost no new cases of the flu. It was remarkable. New Zealand is another example. They had a big detection system where they checked a bunch of people for the flu. They detected 0 flu cases. What about South Africa? They also have a very well-developed health system. And it turns out that South Africa had virtually 0 cases of the flu. Unbelievable. And this is very, very good news for us here in the United States and in Europe. Now, why might the flu levels have dropped so much in these other countries? Well, the most likely explanation is the very things that we are doing to keep us safe from COVID are also the things that you would do to help prevent the flu. So we're practicing social distancing. We're not meeting in large groups as much. We're not around other people as much. We're not touching as much. We're not shaking hands and hugging and that sort of thing as much with people outside of our immediate pod. In addition to that, we're wearing masks, we're washing our hands, we're using alcohol frequently, and we're not leaving the home as much as we used to. So all of these things are the types of things that will help us with the flu in addition to COVID. And it seems to be paying off, which is great news. Now, it's also possible that there are fewer cases of the flu just because maybe people are afraid to go to the doctor and they weren't getting tested as much. And so therefore, maybe they had the flu, but they just didn't know because they didn't go to the office and they weren't tested. So that may account for some of the drop in the flu, but it seems like most likely it's just because people aren't getting it. And that's our best guess, and that would be great news. Well, what does this mean for us here in the United States? Well, first of all, I want to say that you should still get the flu shot. The flu shot is important. And the reason why is the last thing you want is you don't want to get COVID and the flu. That would be very devastating. You would have terrible breathing problems and you can get very sick. In addition, we don't want to have the hospitals full of people with the flu because we want to have room for patients who might have COVID. And in fact, it looks like we're seeing a surge of COVID now, and the last thing we want is to have more people with the flu that will tie up healthcare resources that should be devoted to taking care of people with COVID. So even though the flu seems to be diminished this year and things are looking great, you should still get the flu shot, particularly if you're at high risk, and the CDC still recommends this. So the take-home message is that you should feel good that your chance of getting the flu is probably much less than it was in years past. You should still get the flu shot, and you should continue doing the stuff that helps protect us from COVID, like social distancing, washing your hands, wearing masks, that sort of thing. This is Dr. Gregory Charlop, and thank you for listening, and we'll have more health updates as they are available.